Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So hopefully some of you guys managed to catch my previous video, which was a full kind of overview tour of all of my front and back garden here in Hampshire. And part of that tour is, part of the idea of that tour really, is to give you guys an overview of how the garden is looking in kind of August, which is what that tour was. On the back of that video, I decided that I would produce a series of videos which was more specific to each of the zones of my garden. So here at the moment, we're in the jungle clearing kind of area. It's also used as a fire pit area. And this particular area is a really kind of secluded seating area just off of the main part of the garden. To access this area, you basically walk through this arbor area, archway, and straight ahead of that, it leads you to a seating area, and then just off the side of that is the kind of jungle clearing area. Now, it's nice to have, when you're designing the overall garden, I always think it's a good idea to have different zones within the garden so that you don't basically stand. So say you stand at the back of your patio area, you don't really want to see the whole garden at once because there's no mystery and there's no kind of feeling of adventure in the garden. So you want to be able to discover new areas. And this is how this idea really came about. We wanted a seating area in the garden, which was a lot more informal than the main patio seating area. And when I changed to this sort of jungle style, tropical style garden, I really like the idea of going from a large kind of open area into a kind of secluded space. So in 2016, this area was purely a small piece of grass which came off of the main lawn area, which is off to this side here. Now, initially, we wanted to create a kind of mini orchard area. So I actually planted 4 fruit trees in this area. So we've got a couple of pear trees and we've got a cherry and a cooking apple on here. Now, when I decided to transform this kind of area, I didn't want to just cut all those trees down and sort of replace all the planting. So this area probably is a little bit more of a compromise compared to other parts of the garden because I've decided to keep these trees in position, and I feel they do work well with the tropical style theme, mainly because all the plants around it just bring everything together. And of course, being trees, they are actually quite tall and they kind of help to enclose the area here. So this particular area actually has the advantage of having, I've got an arbor kind of seated area here, and it has a couple of advantages. So this is a fixed seating area, unlike around the fire pit itself, because obviously if you put chairs and stuff around there, it's hard, you're going to have to move those every single time that you want to cut the lawn, and it will potentially make like little bare patches in the ground where the seats are obviously sitting. So this is a kind of a permanent area that people can just sit in the shade and enjoy this space. Now, the other advantage of this particular arbor is you'll see that I've got logs underneath it. So it acts as a dry storage area for the logs for the fire pit. So I really recommend that, you know, if you're putting seating in and things like that, try and go for seating that has like a little bit of built-in storage as well, especially for the fire pit, because you need to keep the logs obviously as dry as possible. Now, I do have another bench just off to the side here, which is used as additional seating, and that is pulled out towards the fire pit. Now, there's lots of different arbors available, and some of them are very, you know, enclosed on the side, some of them are very open. It's totally up to you guys what type of arbor you want to put in your garden, obviously. This particular one came with a kind of a wooden plank roof, which I've actually felted over the top of it to stop it rotting out and to make it lasts a little bit longer. And it's painted in a fairly neutral colours of cream and grey, which kind of goes with some of the other things in the garden. And I think I paid something of like about £300 for the arbor, and it's been in place probably about 5 years. So totally recommend putting one of those in the garden. It doesn't have to be near the fire pit kind of area. It could be somewhere else in the garden as well. But additional seating is always welcome. And another advantage of this is you get a different view through the garden. So you don't want to be kind of standing up and always sort of walking through your garden. You'll want to be able to sit and enjoy particular vistas through the garden. So I'll just show you an angle actually from where I'm sitting now, so you can just appreciate what you're kind of looking out on. So this is the view from the bench, and you can really see on the right hand side there, I've got one of the Musa sicumensis, the really nice banana plant there that basically adds height and drama to the area. Now, just off to the left there, you will see that's where the fire pit area kind of is. So we have a couple of views here, which is really nice. We can kind of look round to the left there and enjoy that view, or we can see into the main central lawn of the garden. So another little design tip that I thoroughly recommend is this particular area, because we're looking at using the fire pit and logs and things like that. I've actually created a raised bed here at the back, which enables me to basically lift these plants higher than they actually would be. Now, there's a couple of advantages for this as well. Mainly, the tree ferns are super expensive to buy. I got these from Seagrave Nurseries this year in May, and as you can see, they're looking absolutely fantastic. We've got really good growth on the top of them already, and hopefully they're starting to root into the soil below. An advantage of basically creating the raised bed here is that the raised bed is already a foot higher than the rest of the lawn. So the biggest tree fern here is actually a 4-foot tree fern, which has obviously become 5 foot, and then the foliage is obviously above that. So we've also got a 3-foot and a 2-foot in there. So another good tip really, plant in 3s and 5s where possible, because it gives a much more naturalistic look to the garden. Also think about companion planting. So with the tree ferns here, you've got a really nice kind of feathery texture sort of foliage above, and below I've put these colocasia black stems. So the advantage of these, they've got big green leaves, look very, very tropical, and they're a nice contrast against the leaves above, and they are a different shade of green as well. So at the moment, these tree ferns are actually in very large pots, which I will show you down here. So you can see the rim of the pot there. Now, the reason why I put these 3 in pots this year was basically because I didn't know the exact position that the tree ferns are going to eventually take. I've never grown tree ferns before. This is the first time for me. And I didn't want to put them in the ground and then realise that they were all kind of looking weird next to each other. So I've spaced them out here to allow them so that you can kind of see the foliage above without them bashing too much into each other. And yeah, they're in pots, so potentially I could have moved them further apart or put them close together. They will obviously eventually root into those pots, and then they will just simply go in the ground where they are at the moment. And I won't have to dig a huge hole, because obviously the pot is displacing the soil that is already in there. So it's obviously topped off with forest bark, which again adds to the look. So as you can see down here, you've got the textures of the actual tree fern trunk itself and the wood chip below. on there. So other plants that I use in this area, so you have to excuse, I do have a bunch of fake bananas up there in the banana tree. So yeah, the banana here, Musabajiu, classic tropical style plant, which does absolutely fantastic in the UK. I do wrap this a little bit, minimal wrapping during the winter, with a little bit of weed membrane and some like a loft insulation that's made from recycled plastic bottles, and this is readily available from B&Q, so you just buy it by the roll, then you can cut it to the size that you want on there. So I wrap the stems on this, and that gives a really dramatic height and drama to the space that towers over the tree ferns below them. So other plants that are in this section, so we have a Mahonia soft caress, which has these lovely soft foliage and looks really tropical, but is a really good evergreen plant that should be used in a tropical style garden. Undoubtedly should be in every tropical garden. There's lots of different types of regular ferns, so a lot smaller ferns that are in this area. So you'll see they've got a kind of a lime greeny coloured leaf on there, and this one, which is a deciduous, so it does lose all its leaves, but is a really funky leaf colour. Shuttlecock ferns, which always look absolutely fantastic when they first come up in the spring, add a bit of texture to the garden there. I've got yucca here, but that's mainly because it's viewed from the other side. And we've got Fatsias, so we've got the regular Fatsia japonica, readily available everywhere, and again should always be in a tropical style garden. On this side of the jungle clearing, we have the Fatsia polycarpa. So this one has more of a matte leaf to it, very similar kind of leaf, but probably a little bit more tropical looking on there. We've got figs above as well, which is obviously from the old design that was originally in here, which I put in kind of 2016, and that's growing really well, and it's purely been kept because of the really interesting leaves on there, and looks like the figs are already being eaten by the wasps. And yeah, you'll see there's lots of different heights here. We've got some gingers and some cannas at the back here. I think the reason why this banana plant has done really well is because it's next to the chicken coop, so it gets loads of chicken manure on there as well. So obviously I've edged the lawn with just a block paving on there. It's not concreted in, which is a good thing really, because I've altered the shape over the years to create the space on there. Now the fire pit I bought online, I think it was about 150 to 200 quid. Lots of them available, and I've put it on a kind of a wood chip base, mainly because you don't want the heat transferring to the grass below and killing the grass as well. Lots of different designs of fire pits available, so it's really sort of up to you guys what works best with the kind of the garden that you have on there. I've also gone for quite a few contrasts in this particular bit of garden. So we have the Brunera Jack Frost here with the beautiful stenciled leaf, and it just contrasts really well with the plants around it. It's a nice low growing plant, goes to about kind of 40 centimeters, easy to look after. It does drop its leaves in winter, but it's fully hardy, comes back every year. It does have blue flowers, which potentially is a bit of a problem for a tropical style garden, but ultimately if you don't like the flowers, you can just snip them off and you can have this fantastic foliage. Obviously, if they do a green version of this as well, but it just wouldn't contrast as much as this particular one. So that covers the jungle clearing area / fire pit area. And obviously I've talked about all the different types of plants that I've used here. However, you could use palms as your kind of evergreens. So you could surround the area with palm trees and you could have your jungle clearance kind of in the middle of that. That would give you obviously the evergreen structure as well, which would be absolutely fantastic. Or your other options are you can use things like gunnera or bananas, which will obviously give the dramatic height to the garden there, and will surround you. But you have to bear in mind, if you're going to use those, that really realistically from about I would say like October, November through to April, obviously everything's going to get frosted off and you're going to have a series of stalks around there, rather than the actual leafy plants. But that may not be a problem for you guys, because, you know, do you sit out in your garden in the middle of winter? So probably not. But if you've got it as an area off of your main garden like I have here, it probably isn't a problem if it was completely bare, because you've got the main part of the garden to look at in the winter. So yeah, there's lots of other plants you could use. Gunnera is another one as well. If you've got a very damp area of the garden, you've got those massive leaves that will grow up and sort of you can be underneath them, and it gives that kind of that vibe that you're looking for. Another plant that you could use is Tetrapanax, which is technically a tree, but it has huge kind of meter sized leaves. But again, you would have the issue in the winter that they would just be kind of woody stalks on there. So really it depends on what you're kind of going for, really. But I've obviously shown you guys the way I've done it here, and I hope that's been really useful. So hope you've also really enjoyed watching the video. Don't forget that I will be doing a whole series of these videos. So I'll be talking about the arid garden, which I have. There's a courtyard garden, there's a woodland garden, and also the kind of pond patio area I will also be doing as a separate video. And then I will also be talking about the front and back garden, the main sections. So just to give you a little idea on that, the front garden, the main part, is a mixture of cottage garden plants mixed with tropical style plants. And the back garden is probably more of a mix of just tropical style plants. So they've got two very different vibes there. But I will show you guys obviously in the next videos. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.